Good morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to Season 3 and episode number 360 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Cryon Media Network. Yeah. Today, recording day is Monday, April 15th, 2024, and it is going to be a nice day here at the Beaver Lodge. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, hey, and with me, as always, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. A big thank you goes to our podcast's founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. And before we go any further, thank you for your patience, because we got a bit of a late start today. And Mr. Grizzly, how's your mental health doing today, sir?
Well, sir, when I wake up, I'll let you know.
I'm feeling the same way here. Sorry, kids, I had a bit of an itchy nose there.
It means you're going to kiss a fool. I could not get out of bed this morning. For the life of me, I could not. I just couldn't get up, and the dog kept staring at me as she climbed onto the bed and hovering over me and trying to lick my face. I'm like, all right, fine, I'll take you out. Take you out. So I took her out, and it was a very short visit to the corner of the apartment building where she relieved herself quickly and then looked at me like, okay, I guess we're going back in. It was really funny. She literally looked at me like, we're going in. I know you have to do some stuff. So somehow she seems to be able to tell the time. I don't understand dogs. I love them. I love her especially, but I don't understand. That's my money. That's my money.
All right. Kids and cubs. Let's start with the fun stuff. Another weekend. Another world championship.
Oh.
Yes. The Canadian national women's hockey team, in an extremely thrilling match, defeated the United States of America in overtime to win the International Ice Hockey Federation's Women World Championship. Yes!
I didn't get to see any of that, unfortunately.
Oh, I watched the whole thing.
Oh, yeah?
Beginning to end.
It must have been some good hockey. Usually is.
Great hockey. Okay, number one, Canadian women's national team. Seriously, do you need to give us heart attacks every damn time you play the United States in a final?
Well, it's got to be exciting, right? I mean, I didn't see any of it. I didn't even know the tournament was on. This whole weekend was literally work. The whole weekend, all I did was work. And Bridget worked with me. Settled down. She's sitting here beside me, giving me this dirty look, like, what you did that? No, the whole weekend we worked. So I didn't see any sports. I was supposed to go to a brunch yesterday to watch an Arsenal match. No, that didn't happen. It was
All
a
right.
busy working weekend. So please regale me with the story of the
Okay.
Canadian women's national hockey team.
Tournament took place in Utica, New York. In this particular match, the United States got off to a bit of a slow start, especially on shots on net. Canada scored first, and it didn't take long for the U.S. to respond. And in this match, it pretty much was like that. Somebody scored, and somebody else would score within minutes.
Oh,
Later, back and forth, call and response. No team led by more than one at any point. At any point whatsoever. So it was the second highest scoring Canada US final in history.
really?
11 goals scored in all.
Oh, so it's like a 6-5.
It was 6-5 game. Yeah, the highest one had been 7-5 in Malmo, Sweden, back in 2015, I think. Julia Gosling scored for Canada the second goal. She's a rookie on the team, and she just happens to be Ryan Gosling's cousin.
Oh, how convenient.
Yes. Actually, Ryan Gosling has two cousins playing on the women's national team.
Really?
Believe it or not. Yes. And Ryan Gosling also did the opening, was the guest at Saturday Night Live this weekend as well. So, and did a really great job. If you have not seen the Beavis and Butthead skit yet that's going around, it's freaking hilarious. So just look at it if you haven't seen it yet. It's absolutely great. Then in the second period, Canada seemed to slow down a little bit, and particularly on shots again, the United States made up the gap. I think it was Alex Carpenter from the United States who then took the lead in the goals, gave the United States a 3-2 lead, and her shot that scored the goal was the shot that put the United States ahead of Canada in shots on net. So the second period was much more U.S. Marie-Philippe Poulin, who is the captain of Team Canada and often referred to as Captain Clutch because she has scored in 4 of the last 5 international finals that Team Canada has played in, and including a hat trick, I believe. No, sorry, that was not her. Sorry. And if you've been watching the tournament, you've seen the Gatorade commercial of the Canadian women's team in the locker room, and someone giving a pep talk. That was Marie-Philippe Poulin giving the pep talk in that commercial. She got the first shot on net of the match, but she hadn't scored all tournament long.
Really?
Yes.
That's
She
really what? Like
she
for
scored
her?
2 in the final. It
But
was the
Marie-Philippe Pilon is like a goal scorer, like
Yep.
nothing in the tournament.
She had not scored a goal in the tournament. Scored 2 in the final, was player of the match.
Well, good for her.
Shows up for the final.
Well, if you're gonna count, that's the time to do it.
Yep.
Right?
But this was a combination of rookies and veterans and everybody adding to the scoring here. Canada picked it back up in the third and opened up a 5-shot 5 shots on goal lead on the United States about 8 minutes in. So for some reason they took a walk a little bit in the second period, but came back. Then after scoring her first goal, Marie-Philippe Poulin then managed to get herself a penalty, which allowed 2-time world champion MVP Hillary Knight of the United States, who really did a number on this last 2 years ago in Brampton by scoring a hat trick in the final. The United States won 6-3 in a match that had a lot of questionable ref calls. She scored her 65th goal at Worlds in her career. To bring it back to a tie. She basically threw it was a really weird goal. There was a shot that went off the boards. The boards were extremely lively. It came right back to her and then went right into the net.
So see, when that happens as a goaltender, I can tell you, we hate it.
Yep. And then
because it's so frustrating.
Yep. And then less than 2 minutes later, this Canadian player, I think Clark it was, also made a shot from to the side, but a little bit behind the net, into some traffic in front of it, and it bounced off an American skate and into the net. So we got 2 weird. We got one off the boards onto someone sticking into the net, and then one sort of like puck dumped into the middle of the net, right in front of the net that went off a skate and right into it.
Yeah.
Within 2.5 minutes of each other. So tied up again. Then then Poulain came back again to score, which looked like was going to be the game-winning goal, but an American player named Harvey, who also scored in last year's final, tied it up with 5 minutes left. Canada started to play sloppy in the last couple of minutes, almost looked like they were trying to give it to the United States, just being completely unable to clear the zone for some reason. And every time they were trying to clear, just directly putting the puck on United States sticks. It's like, please stop doing that. But time ran out and it went to overtime, during which Poulain missed on a breakaway. Then Canada missed on an incredible 2-on-1, but that ended up drawing too many. They always say too many men on the ice for some reason.
Too many men. Women.
Too many players on the ice.
So are they trans? I'm just trying to stir the pot this morning.
And I don't know if it's the same for NHL because I haven't watched an overtime in a while, but in international hockey, they go down to 4-on-4 for overtime. Yes. Yeah. So when the penalty came, it was 4-on-3 and with 2 seconds left in the power play. And Team Canada's power play was the best all tournament long.
They brought it home.
A lady named, and I am going to screw the last name, I am sure.
No, don't do that. That's rude.
Serdachny, Danielle Serdachny, number 92, scored with 2 minutes left. So Ambrose from Canada shot, and then there was a rebound, and she got it and dumped it in the net.
Who placed third?
Finland placed third, beating Czechia in also a match that went to overtime and then a shootout for Finland's first medal in 3 years at the World Championships.
So I'm going to have to try and find the replay of that match because it sounds like it was a hell of a game to watch.
Fantastic. Yeah. High energy,
this is the
fast play,
women's
good
hockey
checks.
Is always thrilling to watch, especially on the international level. Team Canada, Team USA in the final, which is, pretty much what always happens.
The greatest rivalry in sport.
It really is. But you have noticed, and I'm sure most of the viewers and listeners have noticed too, that the Nordic countries are really coming up fast. Like they're just one level below, like literally just one level below. And there's other nations in the world that are like, we're gonna take this crap on, and they're doing it. And I mean, look, Canada, USA in the final is a glorious thing to watch, and I love it. But I do want to see other countries that are capable to get there and play for the final as well. Look, I want Canada to win the gold medal every single time, period. The World Cup every single time, no question. But if two other countries came in and won it, I wouldn't be upset. If it was like, say, Finland and Norway, or Finland and Sweden, or Sweden and, I don't know, Germany, I would not be upset by that because it advances the sport for everybody involved. And with the PWHL, the Professional Women's Hockey League, they are recruiting players from other parts of the world. I mean, 99% of the league is made up of Canadian women. Well, I shouldn't say 99%. There's a lot of American women that play in that league as well.
Yeah.
A lot of American women. There's only 6 teams. It's the nascent days. It's starting out, and it will get bigger and better as time goes on. And every match I've watched has been thrilling. Somebody said something to me the other day, an older gentleman, a staunch conservative, said, I like it. I've enjoyed it. I've watched a few matches and they've been really thrilling. He says, but if it's going to survive, women need to come out and support this en masse. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. He says, not only that, Paul, but also women with money need to come out and support this. He goes, you've got like the WNBA, and people are saying, well, they need to be paid the same as men. It's like, well, no, that's ridiculous. They don't draw the same crowd.
They don't
more. Get this. No, they don't.
Well, I don't know about the WNBA, but the NCAA, they did.
No, yes, the NCAA tournament, yes. But WNBA, they don't get the same crowds. They don't have the television contract. The audience isn't there. And it's like, well, women, you got to get up off your ass and support this. And I'm talking about women like, Oprah Winfrey, a billionaire. Put your money where your mouth is. Get out there and support it. Put some money into it. You're always talking about propping people up and lifting people up. Then get out there and do it, God damn it. Do something about it. Don't tell me how much you support women and then rely on the rest of us to do the work for you. Am I calling her out a little bit? Yeah, I kind of am. I kind of am.
Okay.
But that's okay. I'm allowed to do that. It's a free country where I'm allowed to freely express myself, and I'm freely expressing myself.
Mm-hmm.
She needs to
And
get up off her duff and support it.
yep.
Put
And
her
when
money
you're
where her mouth is.
Yep. When you're talking about other teams, there was another tournament going on parallel to this, also in Utica, with lower ranked teams in a lower division because you play your way up into like divisions as you win, and so playing also this weekend, but didn't get on TV, were teams from Kazakhstan, Spain, Mexico, Chinese Taipei, Iceland, and Belgium.
Oh, well.
There you go. So yeah, it was a great tournament. The final did sell out, of course.
Yes.
Canada's goaltender was René Desbiens. The shots ended 24 for the United States, 30 for Canada, and it was an interesting match because it was new. Youth versus veterans. The average age on the United States national team was 21. The average age on the Canadian one was 28.
Oh, wow. That's a big
Yeah,
difference.
it's
You've got
a big
youth
difference.
versus veterans, right?
Yeah. Yep. And the veterans this time were able to do it. They avenged the loss in Brampton from 2 years ago,
Yes.
winning on U.S. home soil. And the rivalry continues. Now the players go back to their regular league teams where they are getting ready for the playoffs. And I know that a couple of weeks ago, I think there was a match, or there were matches now in much bigger stadiums, like they had. I think they had one at Scotiabank Place in Ottawa not too long ago, and the entire place sold out. And then a couple of weeks after that, I think there was one in Montreal, and that entire place sold out. So the Canadian women's, the Canadian, sorry, not the Canadian women's, the professional women's hockey league keeps on selling out bigger and bigger venues. So that's really, really good for them. And
Well,
I really do hope it continues because it's an exceptional product.
it really is. And they've sold out the Centre Bell in Montreal every time they've played there. They don't play there regularly because they have a
Yes.
separate stadium, but when they have played there, it's been a sellout each time for a number of reasons. A, that the tickets are, affordable to begin with. So,
Yes.
right.
Yes.
But the product on the ice is damn good. I've watched a bunch of PWHA games, and all of them have been good. All of them. There was one I watched where you could start I think it was the first or second match, and they were sort of trying to get their legs and feel each other out, and so there was a lot of back and forth, but they're evenly matched for the most part. I've not seen a lopsided victory. I'm sure there has been one, but I've not seen one, and it's good hockey. It's damn good hockey. And people are supporting it, so that's great. And you got to remember too, especially with the millennials and not Gen Z to the same degree, but millennials have a lot of young children. A lot of those young children are very often little girls. Guess what little girls want to see? Bigger girls succeeding, or women, of course. But you get the vibe I'm trying to lay out.
There was a commercial actually when we were playing it. It was like a father and very, very young daughter. She couldn't have been more than 5, watching TV together, and she looks at her dad and goes, "Where are the girls?"
Yeah. Well, and this is the other thing too. It's like the younger generation is much more involved in the lives of their children than the older generation was. Like you see millennial parents, and to a degree as well, Gen X parents who are much more involved than say their boomer parents were with us. And I'm not knocking our parents. For that. I'm not. It was just a different world, a different time. But fathers are getting involved in their young daughters' lives. And like, Daddy, let's have a tea party. Okay. Daddy, I want to paint your nails. Okay. No objections. Like literally. And you see some of these big, burly, bear-looking guys and sitting there in a tutu while his daughter paints his nails. And he's like, because I love
the things we do for our kids.
I'm getting emotional about this. I don't have children. I'm getting emotional. It's like because these fathers love their children. So PWHA PWHL will succeed because you have a generation who want it to, because they want their daughters, their little girls, their teenage girls to see role models succeeding in a sport that they were not necessarily, during their day, girls and women didn't have a place, and now they do.
Yep. So, we're also seeing it with NFL football. Not that there's a women's league, but that men and their daughters are watching together now because Taylor Swift
brought millions upon millions of young girls to the game to see it.
But there are moments now. There are actually natural moments coming on for other moments for daughters and fathers to connect that weren't there before, which is a very, 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 again, multiply the opportunities for people to connect.
Yeah. Well, what was it? Nelson Mandela. Wow, I'm emotional this morning. Nelson Mandela, who talked about how, sport can unite. Sport can unite. It was when he took the team captain of the Springboks and said, I want
the rugby team.
Yes, the rugby team. He says, I want you to win the Rugby World Cup. And the team captain, who was he wasn't a racist or he wasn't an apartheid supporter, thankfully, but I mean, this was a privileged white male who grew up in privilege, who, after meeting Nelson Mandela, said, he's remarkable. I've never met a person like that before. I've never, and he says he wants us to win the World Cup, so we're going to damn well do it. And they did against the All Blacks, the New Zealand All Blacks.
New Zealand All Blacks.
And Jonah Lomu, who was by far the greatest rugby player to ever play the sport. And if you don't know who he is, look him up. And when he was in it, like when they made the movie, the film,
Invictus with Morgan Freeman and Matt Damon.
When they made that film, they actually slowed down the footage of Jonah Lomu playing in the tournament when they showed him, because they're like, nobody would believe anybody was that big, was that fast. So they're like, to sell it to the rest of the world, or those who don't, American audience, of course, because we're an American film, to sell it to people who don't know rugby or don't know who Jonah Lomu is, we have to slow it down. It's remarkable when you can see. It's like, wait a minute, you're manipulating the story to make it look slower. It's like, yeah, because they had to, because nobody would believe somebody who was like 6'5", 300 pounds could run and move that fast. But the way they talked about it, and my friend, by the way, was at that tournament. My friend attended the tournament in South Africa. He was there when the plane flew over and it said, "Go Springboks." He was there for that. And he said, you would not believe how fast that man could move.
Wow. Well, we have lots of comments from the kids here. Kit, Linda, a lot of that is thanks to Billie Jean King doing for the PWHL what she's done for tennis. Yes. And that's been one of the things about the league that is very good. Kit Tavi G, the only time my dad came out to watch me, he ended up taking me to the hospital for a broken nose. Oh, I'm so sorry. Kit Toronto Dan, me and my first daughter bonded through Stone Cold Steve Austin and Spice Girls. There you go. Hey, any combination works. Kit Michael, it will succeed, talking about the PWHL, because they took the time to do it right this time too, pave the way to a bright future and demanding equality, with the negotiation and the players' contracts and all that kind of stuff. And everybody is in on it. Everybody, wants this to succeed and is rowing in the same direction, which is absolutely just fantastic. And then Kit Linda M again, it's great seeing all the young girls in the stands at the PWHL games. It's also great seeing men with their faces painted being fans. Indeed, indeed, indeed. Hey, good hockey is good hockey.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who's playing.
Yeah,
that's what true. I will say. Like this, and a good game is a good game, and we got treated to a good game. And this final also avenged the loss in regular round play, where Canada had lost in a 1-0 match that went into overtime in a regular round play to the United States. So all in all, a great, 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 great tournament. I absolutely have to say, congratulations, Teams Canada. Congratulations, women. You did us proud again. You always do, regardless of the result. But this one was very satisfying.
Well, I will watch the entire match on replay.
When literally don't fast forward over a bit, even the few sloppy bits that happen, and you'll see. You will. The reason why I mentioned the sloppy bits, the two sloppy bits in the game, is because it's so obvious. It's almost like, sometimes when people panic and they're really trying to clear the zone, it's like, just get a stick on it and dump it. It's like, yeah, but you got to look where you're dumping it first, so that you don't dump it along the boards right on somebody's stick.
Where the puck is going to be, right?
Right. So, and then some fanning on a couple of shots and stuff. It's like, just get it out of the damn zone. The number of times I yelled yesterday, just clear the damn zone to the TV. Like I had played hockey all my life and had coached it. Just clear the damn zone.
I find
And my
myself-
Beaver sweetie was laughing at me because he's not really a hockey fan, but he's a soccer fan. So when he heard me just clear the damn zone, he knew this is exactly what I meant.
Well, and what starts this week? NHL playoffs.
Woo.
Ottawa's not in it. Montreal's not in it.
Yes.
So who am I? Yesterday I'm talking with Bridget, and she goes, "Who are you cheering for?" And I go, "Well, if Ottawa's not in it, any team that plays Toronto, that's who I'm cheering for."
Oh, that's not nice.
Well, it's my two favorite teams are the Ottawa Senators and whoever's playing Toronto. Now, for my Toronto peeps in the chat and on the video, look, the rivalry's fun for me. I grew up a Leafs fan. I did. I grew up a Leafs fan. I did. It's no word of lie. I had Leaf sweaters, and I used to get picked on by my friends who loved the Habs. But I grew up a Leafs fan because, I did like one of a guy I played hockey with when I was a kid. His uncle was George Ferguson. You may or may not remember that name, but he played for the Leafs back in the 70s. So, that there was an instant connection there, an instant bond. Of course, living in Ottawa for the better part of my life. I moved here in 1980, left in 84, came back in 87. Most of my life has been spent in this city. When we got a team, I was cheering for both Ottawa and Toronto for the first couple of seasons. And then it was one season, I think it was when Jacques Martin became the coach. Okay. I made the flip that year. And I had a lot of friends who are Leafs fans who said, I remember when Jacques Martin first started coaching for Senators. And there was a game they played against Toronto, and they beat Toronto soundly, but it was tight. It was like a 5-4 match or 6-5 or whatever it was. And I remember watching the game, and a buddy of mine on Monday morning, when I saw him at work, he was like, "Dude, that was a great game." And he says, and that coach, Jacques Martin, is going to take that team places. He goes, "That's hockey." He goes, I'm not going to switch because I'm a dyed-in-the-wool Leafs fan, but that could make me cheer for them when they're not playing Toronto. And I went, wow, that's huge from you. Mm-hmm. I mean, this guy he's got the Maple Leaf tattooed on his, like the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's Leaves is the plural of leaf, by the way.
Yes.
And you know that the Leaf is an acronym. You know that, right?
Okay.
Leafs, Toronto Maple Leafs. Leafs is an acronym. Losers, even after 50 seasons.
Jeez. Oh, ouch.
Come on. It's good, right?
Ouch.
It's good.
Okay. I'm a little more generous, Kits and Cubs. I cheer for Ottawa first, although I am a dyed-in-the-wool also Habs fan because that's what I grew up as a kid. But Ottawa boy, Habs, then every other Canadian team, then the Leafs, then every other team. And then if it's just American teams, whoever is the biggest underdog, I cheer for.
So here's the funny thing.
Well, actually, sorry. Cities in the United States actually do get snow. Then cities that don't get snow.
So like if Minnesota, if Minnesota was in the playoffs, if they were in the final, I would cheer them right to the end because
honorary Canadian.
They really are. That team.
And if it's Minnesota against Florida, it's definitely Minnesota.
Well, since they got a team back, because they had the Minnesota North Stars, which went to Dallas. But since they got a team back, every single home game has been 100% completely sold out. I think something like 75 or 80% of the tickets are season tickets. They have the largest fan base in that rink in the league. Mm-hmm. Like, I kid you not. Toronto, Montreal, wish they had. Now, Toronto makes more money. Toronto is the biggest draw. It's the biggest moneymaker in the league after the New York Rangers, because the New York Rangers are a thing unto themselves. I mean, New York sports fans are, forget it, right? Yeah. So it's the Rangers, the Leafs, and then everybody else. And those two teams basically generate all the income. Mm-hmm. But Minnesota could almost, stand on their own when it comes to income generation because they come on, the whole state is like, if you don't play hockey, you don't live.
Right. And when I say Minnesota's honorary Canada, I really mean it because the two national curling teams in the United States both come from Minnesota as well. And I think they have more advanced healthcare in the state as well.
Yes, they do.
So it's like, just join, man. Just join.
Just
We're waiting for you. Minnesota.
Minnesota, eh?
I guess if ever you find your man's not treating you right, come up and call me on my cell phone. Whenever you will need my love, call me on my cell phone. Come into my igloo. Okay.
So Dan is saying, Toronto, Dan, if the Leafs make the second round, Paul wears full Leafs gear on the show. If they don't, I'll burn my Matthews jersey alive in my dad's fire pit.
Do not burn your Matthews jersey
Don't
alive
do that.
into death. He's having
Dan,
an amazing season. Do not do that.
Don't do that. Number one, don't do that. Please
60
don't do
goals,
that.
king of the hat trick? No, do not do that.
Don't do that. And where's he from? Where's he from? Nevada. He's from like Vegas. Come on. Don't do that. Number one, don't do that. Number two, that's never going to happen.
Oh,
I'm not. No, it's not happening. But it's funny though. It's like if they make the second round.
So not nice.
Oh, see, no, but Dan's a realist. Dan's a realist. He gets it. Like,
let's play how I could blow Game 7 today.
Arizona. Sorry. He's from Arizona. Even more southern. He's from Arizona, not Nevada. My apologies. My apologies.
Oh,
but it's 70 goals. He's not. He doesn't have 70 goals, but he could.
He's got 70 now. Does he?
No. I think he was on track for 65. And the last game of the season was this weekend for almost every team. Ottawa's last home game was Saturday night against Montreal, and I don't even know what the final outcome was, to be honest.
Yeah, there's still there are a few matches left.
He has 69 goals.
Season. Is he at 69?
Yeah, not a lot of games left. 69 goals. When was the last
69 goals.
When was the last time anybody in the league scored that many goals?
I have no idea.
It's been a long time. You do remember the season when I think Ottawa native, well, Nepean native, technically. I see his face. I can't think of his name right now. Nepean native played for Detroit. He was the captain of the Red Wings. Thank you, Steve Yzerman. I was drawing a blank. Like probably the most handsome man that had played the game at that time. I think he scored like 80 goals one season.
Oh yeah.
And there was like 5 or 6 players that scored 70 plus that season. And then he got his knee, blew his knee out, and I thought his career was over. And he came back and won 3 Stanley Cups or something like that. Yeah. Crosby was the last to score that many goals. And how many years ago was that? Yeah, that was the 90s. Oh, thank you, darling. My lovely partner.
Okay, see it's here. Matthews 26 can become the 9th player in NHL history to record 70 goals in a single season if he manages it. So 9. And the last one that scored 70 goals in a season was Brett Hull in 91-92.
That's over 30 years ago. Wow.
Yes. Michael says that it was Lemieux in 95, 96. Okay, I have Brett Hull in 91-92, but you could be right as well. Because I'm just like looking really quickly off the internet. But Teemu Selanne also reached that goal. Alexander Mogilny reached that level once.
It's a long time ago though. Like we haven't seen
Mogilny. I think Mogilny and Selanne got 76 goals in those years. So
again, still, it's a long time since anybody scored that many goals.
Yeah. And Gretzky has 4 of the 4. Oh, see, this one says 14 70-goal seasons in league history. Yeah, through 9 players, Gretzky owning 4 of them. Brett Hull having 3 and Mario Lemieux doing so twice.
So Gretzky's the only man to score 200 points multiple times. I think he did it 3 times, 200 or more points. But there's no record for that. They're like the man with the most 200-point seasons. Well, he's the only one who has ever done it, and he did it 3 times. And they don't even count that as a record, which is weird. Nobody's ever done it. Nobody's even come close to doing it.
Yeah. It's just, interesting. By the way, and for Austin Matthews, those who don't know, even though, he might be from, where did you say? Not Nevada, but
Arizona.
From Arizona. He was actually born in California. So he's a native Californian.
Kucherov from Tampa Bay has 145 points. That's crazy.
Yeah. So good hockey all along. And as Kid Vim also points out, in Canada, the junior leagues are also in their playoffs. So the OHL, the WHL, the QMHJL, and the LNAH, which not very many people talk about, but I think it's the Ligue Nationale de Hockey Amateur, I think, or Amateur League, Hockey League. But all of them are in a playoff mode right now, so there's plenty of good hockey for you to support in addition to the NHL playoffs, especially here in Canada. So please go check out your local teams if you
Yes,
can.
yes.
Yes, absolutely. They
It's great
deserve your
hockey.
support, and it's a great night out.
Yeah.
It's a great night out. All right.
Can we get political for just a moment?
Of course, yeah, I was absolutely going to segue
We're
away
a
from
political
hockey
show.
to other stuff.
We've been
Hey,
talking about hockey
Canadian politics and culture.
Yes, we are a general culture show. I have a video here from 1984. It's 2 minutes and 49 seconds. I know you will enjoy this, sir. I know it's not a surprise or anything like this. I know you will enjoy this video, and I think the kits will too, because it will bring some levity and brevity, not brevity, just levity to what we currently have in the House of Commons. So let's watch this. I know you'll enjoy this. I really do. It's not a big surprise, but this is from 1984, and this is how things used to be, and we can get there again if we eliminate toxicity.
Good evening. The longest-running parliament in Canadian history is back in business, and the Liberal government is facing a new opposition leader. Brian Mulroney, the new Tory chief, made his first appearance as an MP, and it turned out to be quite a show. Jason Moskowitz reports.
Well, I'm certainly...
Brian Mulroney on his way to the House of Commons for the first time. It's a day for the history books, and everyone knows it. There are people lined up to get into the House. There are greetings and good wishes from one and all as he winds his way down the staircase. The cameras are everywhere, and from the moment he sets foot in the House, the action begins. The standing ovation from all sides of the House is loud and long. The Speaker welcomes him with the same degree of enthusiasm that seems to be bouncing around the room. When it's the Prime Minister's turn to welcome Mulroney, it's not the usual political welcome of hollow niceties. No, it sounds as if an old friend is roasting another.
The member from Central Nova has come a long way from that log cabin in Pictou County. I see he has put away his rumpled trousers and odd sweaters to be brought out again at the next election. But this, Madam Speaker, has been an occasion to talk about the man rather than about the policies, so you will understand that I have gone on a little longer than otherwise would have been possible.
Mulroney's not at all prepared for a roast, but he's not prepared to shy away either. Off the cuff, Mulroney hits back smoothly and confidently.
The Liberal candidate in Central Nova persistently referred to a candidate from Quebec who didn't live in his riding and lived in $1 million house rent-free, and I defended you, sir, regularly. The Prime Minister announced that he's not a quitter. I want you to know, sir, that we're behind you all the way.
The long-awaited serious confrontation between Mulroney and the Prime Minister will have to wait for another day. Today's roasting is history, although certainly not everything said today is destined for the history books. Jason Moskowitz, CBC News, Ottawa.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I thought you would. I thought, you know what, you'll like this because it harkens back to a time when civility and decorum were
Respect for institutions.
all of it, right?
Remember when conservatives used to be the party that respected institutions, that stood for institutions?
Yes. Period.
That was their brand.
Yeah.
Now they just move fast and break things.
Yeah. and don't solve anything in the process, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Move fast and break things is fine when it's a pandemic and you're trying to fix the planet and save people. But move fast and break things when you're trying to run a country and you're not doing anything constructive. Yeah, that's I thought you'd really enjoy that on a Monday
I
morning.
really did. That was wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah,
You're very
Kid
welcome.
VM goes, we're going to have another referendum in Quebec.
Oh God, really?
Yes, but not on separation or sovereignty association thing. But yes, we all know that Legault is tanking in the polls.
Oh yes, yeah, terrible.
And like really bad. We talked about this on the show already, how he took a quick dip somewhere after the election, so much so that he flip-flopped again on Third Link, which is a construction project to build another way onto Quebec City from the South Shore. He keeps on, he will do it, and then he won't do it, and then he will do it, and then he won't do it, and then it's for all cars, and then it's not, and then it's just for public transit, and then it's not. But they've been going back and forth like that, but so much so that he even like flip-flopped on that. And he is suffering. The party dropped from being in the between 35 and 40% in the polls back in September to 23% just this last weekend, whereas the Parti Québécois is now at 33%. So they got a 10-point lead, which is the largest lead that they've had yet on the Parti Québécois, based on polling that came out from 338 just last week. So when you're desperate and you're tanking, you try to throw some red meat to the base. And since François Legault has been on a big ethnocultural thing since he's become premier, he decided that he wants to have a referendum on immigration, because Quebec's thing has been wanting to have full control of their immigration policy, because language and that type of stuff, and the federal government does give them more control over immigration, a lot more say, but doesn't give them full control. And it seems that Legault really wants it. Even Robert Libman, and if you're a certain age, you know that name because he started Parti Égalité, Party Equality in the Quebec. I think that's 3 years ago now.
I'm not sure. I don't recall.
Yeah,
I'm old.
But
and I forget a lot of stuff.
He was a big Anglophone rights person. It promoted the Parti Égalité was a party that promoted the use of English in Quebec on an equal basis with French. It was founded in 1989, and I'm not sure. Well, the party had no success in subsequent elections and stopped organizing after the 2003 election. So yeah, 89 to 2003. But he's still around, and he wrote this column for the Montreal Gazette, stating that referendum was that Legault's playing with fire.
Indeed, he is.
On this referendum, because he had hinted to the National Assembly about the possibility of a referendum on immigration to force Ottawa's hand if by June 30th he doesn't get what he wants from Prime Minister Justin Trudeau on the influx of temporary immigrants to Quebec, which has been a big thing that Legault has been campaigning on. Legault rhetorically asked if a referendum was necessary to convince Trudeau that most, quote, Quebecers are saying it doesn't make sense to allow 560,000 immigrants to come into Quebec. Will we hold a referendum on getting full power over immigration eventually? Will we do it more broadly on other subjects? Legault asked. Also have to understand that referendums are non-binding.
That's correct.
And just because people of Quebec would vote, if they did vote for Quebec to have all its immigration powers, does not obligate in Ottawa in any way to actually say, oh, well, you voted, so I'm going to have to cede it now. Surrender it. It just doesn't happen that way. So, as Libman says, it may be just blustered politics, barring his nationalist teeth in a duel with Ottawa as a hedge against the resurgent separatist Parti Québécois. But if in desperation Legault goes down that path, much like Cameron went down Brexit, for example, as an act of desperation, and that blew up in his face.
Yeah.
Imagine the nightmare of a referendum on immigration. Regardless of the question, it would be easily morph into an ugly and divisive debate and almost certainly spiral into international headlines associating Quebec with anti-immigrant sentiment and xenophobia. Not that that's not happening already. So, yeah, I don't think that this would be very good for the Quebec economy, and it would not help at all. At all, Legault in any real way. But it would definitely mobilize sentiment. That's for sure. If you wanted to stir a pot and hoping that getting people mad would make people come to the polls for him, this would be one way to achieve that. I'm not. I would assume that this is bluster, but who knows? Because Legault was also, if one remembers, I think it was last December or January, all over the microphone saying that the federal government really needs to come forward with its money on housing, like now. Because we're also really going to force it like about 2 weeks or about a week before the federal government actually did do it. One of those things, taking something is going to happen anyway within a week or two, and then going to the mic and making it like you're pressuring the government to do what it is they've already told you they're going to do anyway, so that you look like you had a hand in it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Game that people play. So Legault did do that. Over the course of the weekend, interestingly enough, the Parti Québécois had their National Congress in Drummond.
Oh.
So Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon, there's a mouthful, who's the leader of the party, proposed measures himself to temporarily place a ceiling on temporary student and worker immigration. They said that they had 175,000 of those in 2023 to deal with the housing crisis, which is kind of an interesting policy because that's exactly what the federal government is doing as well.
How convenient.
The immigration minister, Mark Miller, announced that there was going to be a cap on foreign students first, which made all the premiers scream because they've been exploiting them to fund post-secondary education because they have not been funding it properly through general revenues. And now that a cap's been announced, they're scrambling because they don't know how they're going to fund it. They're going to actually have to use their own money and make choices. So, unless they want the universities to all close down. The CAQ pushed the see, this is really funny that the CAQ is demanding or musing about a referendum, but then when the Parti Québécois says, well, maybe we should put a cap on the number of students that we have that are coming for temporary students and the number of people that we're coming have as temporary foreign workers, well, then the CAQ pushes this aside. No, that's not a workable solution. We need a referendum. Actually, the more workable solution is to collaborate with the federal government on the measures that they're already doing, which the federal government has announced a cap on students and has announced that they will be capping on has announced that they will cap federal foreign workers, trying to reduce that by 1/3 within 2 years of the numbers that it is now. And there's a lot of complaining about immigration levels, but let us all remember again, and I know I say it all the time. I got in this conversation with someone over the weekend, says, why are you always harping on the premiers? Because there was a time emerging from COVID where there was a lot of federal program problems. Passports and airports immediately come to mind, but the passports and the airports and all those types of things seem to have resolved themselves. But health, roads, education, climate, all of these things are provincial and they're not getting better. They're getting worse. Housing, homelessness, addiction. And the provinces have made it very clear that they have absolutely no intention of doing anything or spending any money. They keep on running to Ottawa and say, Daddy, can you take care of this? And then when Trudeau does, then they turn around and they go, not like that, like Alberta's doing right now on housing, trying to pass a law to make it so, it's like, you go through me. It's like, why would I go through you when I do go through you and you don't spend the money, or you don't refuse to take the money, or you fight me for 6 months on taking the money? It's like,
well, I mean, it's like
I as the federal government, my objective is to get this stuff built. If you're not going to do it, then I'm going to find myself a partner who can.
Well, it's like I wrote in the descriptor about how literally they transfer payments from the federal government for healthcare to the provinces have quadrupled since 2000.
Yes.
They've not spent all the money on healthcare.
No.
There's $70 billion unaccounted for in healthcare spending.
Exactly. And I'm sorry, as premiers, you can't have $70 billion unaccounted for and then run to a mic and say, we need money, we're underfunded.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
in anything.
And
in anything, because that money goes into general revenues. Like, listen, if you don't want to spend it on healthcare, you could be spending it on post-secondary education, or you could be spending it on housing, or you could be spending it on addiction, but it seems you're not spending it on that either.
Yeah.
Premiers,
well, and let's not forget that the province of Ontario just cut $2.7 billion from education.
And
every 3 feet there's a new cannabis store, and I'm going to be able to buy beer and wine in corner stores in 2026. So yes. Doug wants to keep us dumb, drunk, and high. Yes. So we don't know when we're being robbed blind.
Doug Ford is controlling the things he can, like paying $1 for a paper bag to get out of the LCBO, because he has absolutely no solutions and nothing to offer to solve the big problems like healthcare and how we take care of our seniors. As an example, the Minister of Immigration of Quebec, Christine Fréchette, basically said, notre gouvernement travaille déjà pour réduire le nombre de résidents non permanents, notamment en repartissant les demandeurs d'asile qui représentent plus du tiers de cette catégorie hors Québec. Basically saying our government is already working to reduce the number of non-permanent residents, notably by distributing asylum seekers who represent more than a third of this category to places outside Quebec. With regard to the troisième lien, or the third link, they said that it is going to be reserved for public mass transit only. The project is being studied by la Caisse de dépôt et placement du Québec. They sent in their ministre d'Assemblée nationale, membre de l'Assemblée nationale, for Jean Talon, Pascal Paradis, to basically say, en 2026, on va refaire notre plan sur les transports globalement, sur la mobilité durable à Québec, et un troisième lien autoroutier va être exclu de ce plan-là. Basically saying in 2026, we are going to redo our, globally redo our transportation plan pertaining to durable mobility in Quebec City, and a third link autoroutier. So a third link that has anything to do to help transport cars is going to be excluded from this plan. So that's what's going on the Quebec side. But let's remember as well, when it comes to this stuff, that when we're talking about the temporary or temporary residence, temporary immigration numbers, we've got three types of immigration, right? We have a regular immigration where we're, raising it by a certain amount. That program is working fine. That program, the numbers are adjusted to what it is that we need. Then we have our other things. We have our asylum programs, our refugee programs, and the special programs that we put in case of emergencies. Like, for example, if there's a big flood in Haiti and we give people temporary residence for a while, or like what's been happening with Ukraine. So we have those. That's the second pool. And then the third pool are temporary residents, temporary foreign workers, temporary students, international students. And that's the problem. That's where we have the problem. That's where there's too many people at the moment. But you have to realize that the reason that we have this problem also is the premiers, right? One, on the student side, because they approved so many fly-by-night colleges, they just gave the licenses out like they were candy, because they would get these students in and they would charge them more, and the provincial government would get their cut and would fund post-secondary education with that, rather than funding it properly from general revenues. They decided not to do that. They had a cash cow outside and decided that they weren't going to do the money. They were going to, use them not responsibly, budget to ensure that post-secondary education was properly funded, regardless of how many international students we have, or regardless of the price of oil, or regardless, of the export market for what it is we export. So that's a provincial government program. And then you have to realize again that we had this huge staffing shortage for a while, and provincial governments actually did things like, for example, loosing rules for foreign students that were only able to work 20 hours a week maximum and work on campus. All of a sudden, we're allowed to work more than 20 hours a week, and we're allowed to work off campus, creating situations like the one that my Beaver sweetie noticed as he's teaching at an accredited college of applied arts and technology that has a long-standing history of performance and achievement in Ontario, and noticing that a lot of his students that came from elsewhere, that were here on temporary student visas, were not being allowed by their employers to attend class, even for exams or tests. The premiers built that system.
Yeah. Yes, and they blame the feds on for this issue.
Yes. Like this. So yes, housing is not keeping up with, and also, so housing is not keeping up with demand. And right now we have a federal government that's working both on the supply side with the Housing Accelerator Program, because the revamped Housing Accelerator Program, because they had to change the focus of it to go around the cities and deal directly with the municipalities, because the cities were not getting it done, and the municipalities, the mayors were begging for the money. And on that, there's a lot of people that are upset, like I said, the provinces. But it's like, provinces, you're the ones who showed the federal government how to move fast and break things and say, they're the way that things have been done forever. Yeah, we're just not going to respect that. So don't get mad now that the federal government has learned how you play the game and is playing it according to your rules. And here's the thing, premiers, you can pass all the laws you want banning the federal government from dealing directly from municipalities. But if the municipalities want the money and you're not going to give it to them and the federal government is, there's absolutely nothing you can do to stop them, because I would love to see the first premier that's going to take the federal government and a mayor to court because they had agreed to fund housing.
Well,
that's not going to be a good PR move for the party that takes them to court.
Well, and let's go back to this trough.
So call the bluff.
Check this out. This is where I got my headline from, if you will. Watch this. It's
there you go.
27 seconds. And it says 70 billion in health transfers not being spent on healthcare by provinces.
This is criminal.
What did provinces do with that 70 billion? Billion.
One thing somebody should ask the provinces before they come back for more is, what did they do with the money they were given the last time around? Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what happened. Since 2000, federal transfers for healthcare have more than quadrupled. Provincial spending on healthcare has only tripled. If the provinces were spending all the money that they got from the feds, they'd be spending about $70 billion more than they are. So what did they do with that $70 billion? They did put it to other purposes. One thing somebody...
So, I mean...
And this is why the Prime Minister wanted more rules to transferring money the last time, and all the provinces said, no. Because they want the money, they want to take their cut, and then they want to spend it on their pet projects. They are not spending the money on that for which it was intended and that which they agreed to spend it on.
Which is criminal. It's criminal.
And they can't account for it. Or if they can account for it, they won't tell us where it is. This should be criminal.
It should be a criminal investigation.
If I was the federal government right now, I would hear this piece of news and I would ask the Auditor General to audit every freaking province's healthcare. I would spend a whole bunch of money to hire a whole bunch of auditors, and I would make it a national thing, and I would make sure that report was out way before the next budget.
Yeah.
The premiers are the problem. The premiers are robbing us blind. $70 billion.
And remember the difference between 1 billion seconds and 1 million seconds. 1 million seconds is what, 12 days? 1 billion is 32 years. Multiply that by 70. Do the math.
Yeah.
That is more money than you can truly, actually, possibly comprehend. It's beyond comprehension. $70 billion is missing from healthcare across this country because provincial premiers are robbing us blind. It is,
literally, and they've been doing it for a long time. They've been doing it for a long time. We just talked a couple of days ago about how Premier Scott Moe in Saskatchewan actually introduced an industrial carbon tax back in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And it was bringing in about $25 million or so, like this. And he was not putting it in the budget as a line item in any way, shape, or form until last year when he put on electricity costs, put a carbon price on electricity costs, as he was telling the people of Saskatchewan that he was relieving them from paying it, which ballooned that carbon tax from about 25 million to over 25 million to 330 million a year, or maybe even 363 million or something, 323, something like that, million a year. And last year, he finally had to put a line item in his budget because, now we're talking about triple digit millions, so I guess he couldn't hide that. and then he calls it like output-based system performance, or something. He gives it a name that nobody looking through the document. If you took the time to do your work as an engaged citizen and look through the budget and see whether or not there was a carbon tax, even though there was a line item, finally, after it being hidden for 4 years, like us, you would not know what that was.
Exactly.
They had fun with words. They gave it a fancy name so nobody would notice. And finally, not a while ago, he said, yeah, that's a carbon tax by another name. And then, of course, the journalists asked them the immediate follow-up question. Well, if you have a carbon tax as another name in your province and you've had it for the last 6 years and you've been trying to hide it, why are you objecting to the federal carbon tax? Asked no journalist whatsoever.
Yeah, there's a conspiracy of silence. That's how I call it. I mean, tell me I'm wrong. It's truly
ask
bizarre.
the painfully obvious follow-up question, please, especially if you've done all the work of putting up the setup, and then don't ask it. There's
it makes one
nothing more
wonder
frustrating for people at home.
If a lot of these reporters are so worried about, I'll find myself Gilmored. That's what I'm calling it. I'll find myself Gilmored because Rachel Gilmore, who was working for Global, called out Polyev, and like less than a week later, she was suddenly unemployed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not saying it had anything to do with what he said, but I'm saying it did.
Yes. But it's like, imagine being in court. Like, imagine, like, you're in court. It's like, is this your license plate? Yes. Are these your fingerprints on the weapon? Yes. Like this. Oh, it seems you cut yourself when you stabbed her. Is this your blood? Yes. Oh, well, I guess the killer has to be the neighbor.
Yeah.
Another
news.
Ask them all that questions. Where were you? Were you there? Were you hovering over the body? Yes. Like this. And then final question, Mr. Johnson, did you kill your wife? It's like, ask the final damn question. You did the whole setup.
They're not asking it.
It's like super frustrating. I played a clip for you.
I've got it.
I got a clip. This is Danielle Smith showing extreme gall.
Yeah, that's to put it lightly.
My message to Ottawa is that federal politicians, and the Prime Minister in particular, should do his job and stop trying to do my job. That's what the message is. And I don't know if Premier Higgs would said the same thing, but when we meet as premiers, the really interesting thing is it doesn't matter whether it's NDP or Liberal or Progressive Conservative or UCP or Saskatchewan Party. We all come from different parties and different perspectives, but we are united in that the federal government should stay focused on the things which they need to do. There's lots of things they need to do. They need to shore up national defense so that we're not an international embarrassment. They need to make sure that our foreign policy is aligned with our allies instead of our enemies. They need to make sure that they're expanding international trade so every single one of our 10 provinces and territories can get our product to market. They need to build critical infrastructure like the Trans Mountain Pipeline, which is going to be getting to the finish line. That is the kind of things that they should do more of. They should be building ports. They should be building rail lines. They should be building highways, Stephen Guilbeault. They should be making sure that they are living up to their obligation and their treaties with First Nations. They should be funding healthcare on reserve, mental health and addiction treatment on reserve, water on reserve, building out economies on reserve. They should make sure that the value of our dollar is not diminishing internationally. They should make sure that they can process passports efficiently. They should make sure that the Pearson Airport is a lovely experience to go through, and that all of our airports are operating efficiently. There is no shortage of things that the Prime Minister can do. It's not a boring job. So when you see in Alberta that we are going to take a posture more like Quebec, which is no thank you, we don't need your policy advice on school lunch programs, on pharmacare, on dental care, that is just give us the money and trust that we'll be able to deliver on this. That's the approach that we're going to take.
Oh, shut up.
We're going to be pretty vocal about doing so, and I hope to see some of the other premiers do it.
Okay. Now, let's talk a lot about this first of all, okay? She's basically saying, Prime Minister, let me do my damn job. You're not doing your damn job. Number one. Number two, you've been going all over social media and every other media you can find and telling the Prime Minister that he should fire Stephen Guilbeault. If the Prime Minister dared to tell you who you could have in your cabinet, you would have a fucking shit fit.
Yeah.
So you need to shut your pie hole.
Shut
All
your
right?
dick hole.
She talks about defense. They just announced a defense strategy that's going to bring us to 1.76% of GDP and
Which is
get
the
us
most we've
out
ever spent.
and also get 20% of our defense spending spent on procurement and research and development. She talked about passports. She talked about airports. Those are solved. She talked about not having a foreign policy that caters to our enemies, which we do not have, but the Conservative Party of Canada does, however, particularly when it comes to Ukraine. She talks about First Nations. She's the one that's claiming that she has Indigenous ancestry and has been doing things without properly consulting First Nations, whereas the federal government has been on a reconciliation thing. She talks about water on First Nations communities. The federal government is the government that has done more than any other federal government combined to bring drinking water to reserves. She talks about infrastructure programs that need to be done as she kneecaps the green energy sector in the province. And she's talking about a national school food program, which when we reported on this, a bunch of kids in her province had to go to the hospital with renal failure because she couldn't make sure that food was properly prepared for the program that they actually do have in daycares, not even schools, daycares.
Yeah.
She raised electricity 128% over the course of 1 year, maybe more. That was July numbers, year-over-year inflation.
Just give us the money and we'll spend it the way we see fit.
That's what we've been doing, and that's where you are right now is as a result of just giving you the money and trusting you. It hasn't worked. Clearly.
And how many times?
And then hold on, one more thing. And when she's talking about Quebec, when Quebec goes to the federal government and asks for money, like example for housing, which you're trying to pass a law so that the money has to come through you, so that you cannot spend it on housing, like you have not been spending it on housing up until now.
Yeah.
Because in Quebec, when they say give us the money, the Premier of Quebec shows up to the table with a matching $900 million in housing funding, and then gets the federal $900 million, and then announces a $1.8 million housing plan in his budget.
Yeah.
You take the money and do whatever you want with it.
Just give us the money.
You give it to an oil company.
It gets doiled out.
It's like, no, we've done just give you the money and let's hope it works out. It didn't. And especially with you, it's definitely not good because you first used to lie about everything. And you know that little, and then it goes, it's not a boring job, taking that little comment again that the Prime Minister said, when he said, c'est plate ça, when he was talking about certain things being tedious. I bet you he had Danielle Smith in mind when he was talking about the parts about the job that are particularly tedious. He goes, but she took that, you notice that little smirk on her face, right? And there's everything about her demeanor when she delivers on that type of stuff that just freaking makes my skin crawl. She is haughty. She is arrogant. She is flippant.
H-A-U-G-H-T-Y.
And she looks at you right in your face, and she does that smile thing that she does.
Mm-hmm.
Like this, and smugly tells you this is how it's going to be. And you can tell her to her face that she is wrong and that she just lied, and she just continues like nothing ever was.
Do you remember the Bill Burr skit from a Bill Burr comedy bit from a few years back when he said, I'm watching Oprah one day or The View or one of these programs, and all these women on there were saying, there's no reason to ever hit a woman. There's no reason to ever hit a woman. He says, oh, you're wrong. I'll give you a goddamn reason, but you don't do it. I'm like, oh, I don't hit people. I don't believe in it. I'm a pacifist. But do you ever want to smack the shit out of somebody more than her?
Every damn day.
Like, you want to do it, and I've got a reason to do it. You don't do it.
Wanting to do it human, doing it criminal.
Exactly. You want to do a lot of things, but you don't act on them because you know they're wrong, they're incorrect, they're improper. But
because you're a grown-up who has mastery over yourself.
Yeah.
That's why you don't do it. But the feeling of wanting to,
oh yeah,
totally human.
And you are totally allowed to feel that emotion because you're human. But you don't act on it. You don't give into your base thoughts, emotions. You don't give into it, even though you might want to. Again, like Bill Burr said, I will give you a reason, but you don't do it.
Mm-hmm. I got another clip.
And here we go. Oh,
this is her. And this is her being corrected.
Yeah.
She's talking about funding for post-secondary education grants, that type of stuff.
I'm glad you sent
again
this,
making the claim that again making the claim that Alberta is somehow hard done by. Number one, you gotta present projects that are research worthy, and you seem to be completely against science and actually, expanded knowledge.
Yeah.
So don't be surprised if you basically throw that can't do attitude and culture into the whole university system and you're not getting proper funding. But hey, let's be honest, right? Alberta has 2 of the largest universities in Canada, and they get a lot of funding because academics like to get published, and academics, as opposed to politicians, actually have standards to the research and the products that they put out, and they're peer-reviewed and they're held to account.
What you see on the screen right now is a comment from Mohan, and I love the way you said this, Mohan. I love the way you wrote this. What she's doing to Canadians living in Alberta is criminal.
It is.
But I love the way Mohan wrote that. Canadians living in Alberta.
Yes.
Canadian first.
Yes.
Canadian first. What she's doing to Canadians living in Alberta is criminal. Mohan, that's a high five. That's a fist bump. That's a bro hug. Dude, nailed that one. Nailed that one.
Boom. Yep.
All right, let's watch this.
Her tone, the way she carries herself, everything about this makes my skin crawl.
Oh yeah.
This is how not to be.
And again, you don't hit people, but I can give you a reason to want to hit somebody. And this is a good one.
I have been given enough indication that the federal government uses its power through researchers to only fund certain types of opinions, certain types of researchers. And I don't think that's fair either. I think we need to be able to have a balance in our university if we're going to have a robust, free, and democratic discussion about all issues.
But the National Research Councils are depoliticized, right? It's a jury of academics or peer-reviewed, and they make the decisions through application on research grants going to university, and it's all posted publicly, so you can see what's there. But you don't have confidence in that system?
I have heard enough from some of our academics about how difficult it can be to be able to access some of that funding. So we just want to do a review, and we want to just see if there's some way that we can make sure that we maintain the environment at universities, which there should be, which is that all people from all political perspectives are able to engage in a robust debate and have a robust research agenda.
I can feel some researchers at the University of Calgary, the University of Alberta, and places in your province getting anxious with that, because the universities have agreements straight with these granting agencies. It's meant to be independent to fund research that is protected by academic independence. I mean,
well,
what kind of a role do you see there for you?
I guess if we did truly have balance in universities, then we would see that we would have just as many conservative commentators as we do liberal commentators. Out of our journalism schools, we'd see just as many conservative-minded journalists graduate as we do progressive-minded journalists graduate. We don't see that. And so that leaves me to be concerned that we're not fostering the kind of environment that allows for balance, because we need to have balance. If we're going to have a balanced discussion in the broader public sphere, it begins at the universities.
I get that, but that would be an issue with campus culture, which is funded by provincial governments. This is like medical research and scientific research and humanities research that is not necessarily determining the makeup and composition of the people who work at a particular
I guess
university.
We'll see. That's why we're doing the review. We want to see what kind of things are being funded, and if there are any areas that are problematic, we'll have to keep that in mind as funding agreements are renewed.
Oh my God.
She is an awful human being. She's just awful. She literally just, it's like he's literally saying, "You are lying." And she purses her lips, does that, gives them that, "How dare you," sort of look like this, and then smiles. Keeps those smiling, but without the eyes actually thing that she does.
Yeah.
I guess. And then she is more condescending to them. Ironically enough, she's literally calling for quotas.
Yeah.
She's saying that 50% of the projects that get funded in order to be able to have a balanced discussion. And she never wants a balanced discussion on anything. She wants
she
to
doesn't.
monologue. She doesn't like discussing. She likes monologuing. See, he was trying to propose a discussion. She just talked right past him. Yeah, I understand that you just said a fact, but we'll see. We'll have to take that in consideration like this. Like, if there's anything that's problematic, she's going to find something that's problematic.
But
Like this, and she's going to use that as a pretext to do whatever she wants. She's saying like this: if these things were important like this, we would have half the commentators coming out of graduating that or would be getting funding. It's like I don't know if you've noticed, but the overwhelming majority of commentators that actually have a platform in Canada are pro-conservative.
Yeah,
regardless of the university, she actually doesn't believe in journalism. So I don't know why she cares whether or not the journalism school is actually pronounced, but it's sort of like this. If we had a fair thing, you would be admitting people to journalism schools and you would be giving your scientific research dollars based on their political. Your first criteria would be making sure that political ideologies get 50% each, regardless of the merits of the projects first. Not the most meritorious projects, not the most interesting level of science, not the actual best journalists, regardless, or the best candidates to get in the schools based on their grades, whatnot like this. But first, ask if they support conservative ideals and make sure 50% of the money and the spots go to them. That's literally what she is saying. The parties that keep on talking about meritocracy, oh my God, we can't have these stupid quotas, is literally calling for quotas and lying.
Yeah.
That the independent boards of NSERC and the National Social Sciences and Humanities Board, like this, the academics there that look at all the submissions, evaluate them, and decide what gets, that these are actually not academics and professionals in the business reviewing their peers, but actual Justin Trudeau's handpicked people that are deciding, you know what? Oh, well, yeah, this guy, I know he's a conservative, so let's not give him funding. And that is not happening. This is an utter and complete misrepresentation. She literally lied like she breathed.
And
smug. I know you just told me I'm lied and I don't care.
Did you catch the part of her diatribe where she said progressives versus conservatives? Did you catch that in her speech? She actually said that. Progressives versus conservatives. I'm like, what the fuck are you going on about? Oh, I know what it is. She's listening to pastors. She's listening to people like Parker.
Pavlovsky.
Exactly. And look, I got to put this on the screen because this is like right underneath the video. Because the video was from the breakdown from our buddy Nate. So he tweets this. Despite being corrected that grants are determined by academic panels and not Justin Trudeau, Smith not only doubles down on that, she then says that with the powers of Bill 18, she will block renewals of grants if they don't align with UCP views.
Yeah.
Let's scroll down to the very first response to this tweet, because we just watched that video. And the first response is, that is not what she said. She said if it isn't balanced and representing all perspectives, they would look for a way to make it more fair. Let's just scroll down a little bit further to see Nate's response. She denied the existing process exists and then threatened renewals of grants. She's targeting empirical sciences because she doesn't believe there's enough conservative journalists. There's captions for the video if that helps. No, she did not deny the existence of a process.
Yes, she did.
She said she's had a lot of feedback saying the process isn't working in a balanced way and she will be reviewed to ensure that it is fair. You keep Christie, research grants have nothing to do with undergrad journalism studies. That's it.
Yep.
And
she received feedback, much like the provincial print, like Blaine Higgs received, or the education minister in New Brunswick received feedback.
2 people,
or Scott Moe received feedback that trans students thing was in it. Whenever we've received a lot of you haven't. You haven't. That's a lie. That's a lie.
Stop lying to us.
An outright lie.
Stop lying to us.
The academic world is curious.
Period.
They believe in things like the scientific method. So yeah, odds are they're probably not going to be conservative. People who are curious and ask questions and actually believes in science and facts and data and empirical proof are probably not going to be on your side. Danny. But that's not an academic problem. That's a you problem. As in, you're the problem. Oh my God, that woman. I swear, there is no lie she will not tell. Again, Nate Pike said it best. Once you first accept and surrender to the fact that every time she opens her mouth, she will always first choose to lie, then you can start to begin to understand her.
That's who she is.
It's literally who she is. She's a liar.
And she's worse than Polyev. And here's why I say that.
Yes. Somebody said that too. Polyev was the worst, and I say that she's the worst.
No,
please,
she's
I'd love
worse.
to hear why.
And here's why. Because Polyev is always this arrogant, smug prick. This fucking asshole. She does it with a smile because she actually has media training. So she's able to come in with a nice sort of sweetness and counter
nasty
your actual facts with bullshit. And
nice
she's
nasty.
good at it. She's so good at it.
In a calm
really
voice. Oh, it just sounds so reasonable. Makes us smile.
Exactly. She's really good at manipulating people.
Oh, she's
really good at getting her
manipulator.
bullshit message across.
Yeah.
Because people it's delivered with a smile and some kindness and the soft music and the lighting. And she's lying directly to your face and you're believing it because she delivered it in a nice way. Whereas Polyev is a smug asshole. And a lot of people who are conservative are like, that guy's a dick. I'm never voting for them.
Yep.
She will get the votes because the way she delivers her message.
Yep.
But what you don't get is that she's fucking lying to you.
Yep. I posted the clip and somebody reported, she's as creepy as pee-pee. And I said, more so in my honest opinion. She's the type of person who would be sitting there smiling at you, claiming that the surgery won't hurt at all prior to them not using anesthesia. And afterwards, she'd pat you on the head telling you imagined the pain and it was Trudeau's fault that you did.
Yeah. 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 Yes.
Have the kidney surgery. It won't hurt at all. There was no anesthesia. I cut that program. Well, it didn't hurt that much, did it? Look at you.
Remember,
you survived. Oh, it was really painful. Oh, well, that's Trudeau's fault. I had nothing to do with that, even though I'm the one that told him to cut the anesthetic.
Doug Ford was going to cut the funding, the budget, because he was cutting healthcare left, right, and center. I think he cut $2 billion out of the last budget. I don't know what the current budget.
You're talking about anesthesia for colonoscopies now, right?
Yes. He was going to. Okay, you're going for a colonoscopy. There's no anesthesia. What? We're going to shove this giant tube up your butthole.
Hey, Doug Ford, scream to me that you've never had a colonoscopy without screaming to me you've never had a colonoscopy.
Look, once
because if you had, you wouldn't even have thought of that.
Here's the thing. There's no nerve endings in the colon, so they can see a polyp and pull it out, and you don't feel a damn thing. But the entrance, you feel. And maybe you're into butt sex. Maybe you're not. I don't know. But here's the thing. It's not a pleasant thing. It's not done for pleasure. It is done for exploratory to make sure you don't have cancer. So if you do not anesthetize someone before you give them a colonoscopy, that's really going to hurt. It's really going to hurt. And he tried to cut that from the budget. And thankfully, somebody went through that budget with a fine-tooth comb and said, excuse me, Doug, if that's going to happen, you're the first candidate. And then you tell me how quickly we reinstitute anesthesia for colonoscopies. And they brought it back real fast. Real fast. Because who wants to get a giant camera shoved up their butthole? Nobody. I shouldn't say nobody. There's probably a few people that do. Everybody has their own kink. But I'm going to say the vast majority of people, even if you like the butt sex, even if you like to put stuff up your butt, that's not the scenario where you want something up your butt. It's not, because you're in a hospital bed, you're in a gown, you're exposed, you're vulnerable, and this is not a romantic setting. It's not something that people, again, the vast majority of people enjoy. I'm sure there's absolutely somebody somewhere who does. And I'm not kink shaming, Linda. I'm not Jim. I'm not kink shaming. I'm literally not. I would say that most people in a hospital setting don't like to have anybody stick anything up their butt. Period. Who likes to be in the hospital? Most people don't. Most people don't. Who likes to be examined while in the hospital? Most people don't. You don't want to be in the hospital. So let's take away the one thing that will make the exam a little less harmful, and a little less pleasant. We're going to take that away from you. Well, guess what? Guess what? People called it out and called out Doug and said, nah, Doug, you're the first candidate. You're going for colonoscopy first, Doug. You're first. It's just first. Sorry, Saucy. I came back at the wrong time.
So, all right, enough with her.
Yes.
Because she's got enough airtime already. Over the course of the weekend, unfortunately, we do have to go into this. I am so sorry that we have to do. But we had been talking about it a lot, and the situation keeps on escalating or changing rapidly. But it's everything that has to do with Israel and Palestine at the moment. Last we looked, I don't even know how to qualify where it is that we left off. But basically, Israel decided that fighting a war on one front wasn't enough. That on April 1st, it launched a strike on an Iranian embassy in Damascus, a consulate in Damascus. In the process, by the way, damaging the Canadian embassy, something about which Pierre Poilievre had absolutely nothing to say.
Funny how that is. Eh?
Just putting it out there. But for those who do not know, the Canadian embassy was damaged in the blast because ours is close to the Iranian consulate in Damascus. Now, I don't think that we've had anybody working at the embassy for a while as a result of what's going on in Syria, but it is still Canadian territory and it is still our property. So, yes, you can bet that the Prime Minister had a couple of conversations either directly with Netanyahu or through Biden to let him know that he certainly was probably not pleased about that. And as a result, in international foreign affairs, when somebody attacks your soil, you have to respond in some way because you can't just let it sit there and, say, we're not going to do anything. Now, Iran did respond. And often these responses are choreography.
Oh, yeah, very much
so. That a lot of people going, geez, this sounds like it's staged and whatnot. Yeah, it's staged and discussed. Iran basically not called the United States directly, but through back channels and governors and other stuff, let the United States know 72 hours before
they actually did it.
The hit took place. Yes. And Iran told partner countries, proxies, all like this, it is not targeting U.S. personnel. It is not targeting U.S. bases. We are going to hit here. We are going to hit at this time. Like this. Yeah. And it will be nothing more than that. Rest assured, we are not targeting U.S. personnel and bases. And remember, the United States, when the embassy was hit, was the first to communicate with Iran and say, hey, guys, this is really, really, really not us.
Yeah.
So this has been going away. This is a two-way street of communication that's been going, back channel communication that's been going. Now the United States response to Iran telling them a 72-hour notice that they were going to hit something was pretty much, okay, don't use this as a pretext to hit us. No, but this is like, no, you will not hit an Israeli target anywhere. It was like, yeah, fine, just don't use this as a pretext to hit us.
Yeah.
So that's a switch from the U.S. position. United States, France, and the UK did help to intercept greater than 300 drones, cruise, and ballistic missiles that were launched by Iran. Most of them were intercepted. Was probably in single digits, the number of them that actually did land somewhere along the way. The damage was limited, but an Air Force base in the south of Israel took a hit to their air defense systems, according to Iran. Iran decided that was enough. They would claim victory and basically said that, yep, that's all we intend to do, and we consider the matter settled. So again, staged. You hit us, we have to hit you. Here's where we're going to hit. Here's the time where we're going to hit. We're not going to do anything else. And once we've hit, we're going to consider that we've responded, and there should be no further escalation unless you want one.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, choreography, all of it. Iran foreign minister, after the hits, stated, as you know, last night, the forces of the Islamic Republic of Iran struck the Zionist regime's military targets. Our actions were limited. We had informed the White House that our military actions were to be limited, precise, with the intention for self-defense and to punish the Israeli regime. In these actions, our forces with precision used both drones and missiles to target a military site in Israel, which houses F-35 jets. They have used this site to attack our consulate in Damascus, and it was this site which we struck. There was jubilation in the streets of Tehran. Israel announced the reopening of its airspace following its riposte. Following Iran's riposte, sorry, not its riposte. Clearly, Israel feels that there's not much more that's going to come if they reopen their airspace that quickly, but there's a fear of a widespread regional escalation because Israel decided that, hey, you know what, it wasn't enough to throw bombs across the border in Lebanon and fight with Hezbollah and fighting with Hamas as well. Let's open a front. let's open a front with Iran as well, because the United States learned that fighting a war on more than one front when it decided to go into Iraq as well as Afghanistan after 9/11 was a really good move. I mean, all along the United States has been telling Israel, do not make the same mistakes we make in Israel. It keeps on going, you know what? You fought a war on two fronts. We're going to fight one on three. Aren't we good? Fucking overachievers. If the U.S. responds with Iran also said, if U.S. responds with an escalation, this is Iranian General Mohammad Bagheri, said, we see this operation as completed and successful. It's over from our perspective. If the Zionist regime takes any action against our Islamic Republic of Iran, either on the soil of Iran or the centers belonging to us in Syria or elsewhere, our next operation will be much bigger than this. If the U.S. gets involved, none of its bases in the region will be safe. Israel has not admitted that they struck the consulate in Damascus, but flippantly says, well, that wasn't a diplomatic building, it was a military facility.
Sure it was.
War Cabinet member Benny Gantz, and I have to issue a self-correction here because I stated a few times on past shows that Benny Gantz is probably more to the right of Netanyahu. That's probably incorrect. I was thinking of Yoav Gallant, his Minister of Defense, not Benny Gantz, which I believe was his one of his main rivals for the prime ministership when he was running in elections. But he's part of the War Cabinet. And he says that Israel will exact a price from Iran, quote, in the face of Iran's threat, we will build a regional coalition and exact the price from Iran in a way and a time that suits us. And most importantly, in the face of our enemy's desire to harm us, we will unite and become stronger. Now, whenever a country says that we will respond in a way and a time that suits us, that is code for usually there will probably be no response. Because we're going to keep on putting out the threat that at some time, you don't know where, you don't know when, but we will get you back for this.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to saying, you hit us? Oh, set your watch, motherfuckers, it's coming. Right? This is like, at a time in a passion of our choosing, somewhere down the road, we will respond. That's usually what you do when you want to let the people of the country know. It's like, yes, we're still fighting this, but you're trying to send the message to the other country. Okay, enough. Usually. So that's usually so. So when I say this is choreography, right, the Iranians knew by launching drones and missiles they would not be able to do much damage. So this is literally more symbolic. Like, this is according to Bo of the fifth column here. The Iranians needed to do something. They couldn't just decline combat. So the question is, how do you retaliate and not escalate? And I think the way to do that is that they, through various back channels, through the Arab states, even direct back channels with the U.S., they basically telegraphed and signaled, quote, this is what our plan is, this is what we're going to do, and as long as Israel does not do a counterstrike, we're not interested in an escalation. Now, that's sort of the intent. The problem is that once you pull the trigger, you can't control where these things go.
Yeah.
And that's a quote, not from Bo of the fifth column, but Cameron Bukhari, who's the senior director of the New Lines Institute in Washington. Now, the reason why this strike from Iran is notable is because normally when Iran strikes, they strike from their proxy locations so that they can give themselves the fig leaf of deniability.
Right.
It's like, we all know you did it, but you can't prove it. It came from proxy. It might have been a bomb gone awry or whatnot. It's like, but they still have the fig leaf of deniability.
Of course they do.
Yes. Iran didn't care about that. This is the first time ever in the history of Iran-Israel skirmishes where Iran launched an attack from directly within its borders.
Mm. This is new territory.
This is new territory. Iran didn't even attempt to create the fig leaf of deniability for itself. It's like, yeah, we did it.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
And we didn't even, and you know what? We did it we didn't bother to place a phone call to another country, whatever progress they did. We did it ourselves.
Yeah, we're fully admitting it. We're not hiding. We're not shying. We did it. Yeah, it was us.
Yeah. The UN Security Council held an emergency meeting. The Prime Minister responded as, these attacks demonstrate yet again the Iranian regime's disregard for peace and stability in the region. We support Israel's right to defend itself and its people. In addition to the usual suspects, nations like the Netherlands, Denmark, Saudi Arabia, Oman, and China, oddly enough, are among the countries that called for restraint. The UN Secretary
Don't you mean Beijing? Don't you mean Beijing?
Oh, yes. Beijing called for restraint. China's fine with it, though. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres stated that neither the region nor the world could afford another war. Quote, now is the time to defuse and de-escalate. Now is the time for maximum restraint. After meeting with G7 counterparts, Biden reaffirmed Americans' ironclad commitment to Israel's security, after having met the national security advisors as well. But twist, urged caution on Netanyahu by essentially saying Washington will help Israel defend itself, but will not take part in any retaliatory operations against Iran. Oh my God, it's almost like Israel's making it so that Iran and the United States might actually have a pathway to becoming, if not friends, at least civil to each other.
Well, that would be cool.
That would be cool, because the United States certainly wants that. Biden also to Netanyahu basically said, take the win.
Take it. Yeah.
Basically go out and say, hey, did you see our air defense? See what your effort was like? Yeah, don't do that again.
We will spank you hard.
Yes. Now, apparently it seems that the response as to what's going to come next is not going to be made by Netanyahu himself. I don't know if this is something that the U.S. negotiated, but it will be handed off to not one, but two other people who must agree. So maybe that will calm some passions a little bit.
Hopefully.
Yes, Iran warns that any American threat that harms its interests will be met with a reciprocal response, of course, lots of saber rattling, blah, 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 blah. But this thing by Israel, this move seems to be a silly move. Has to be a silly move because it kind of drives the United States right back into, silly move by Iran, because it kind of drives the United States back in Israel's arms in a way, even though the United States is making the comment, like this, we will not participate in a retaliatory effort. Biden's back to saying stuff like this, we have an ironclad support for Israel like this, which he was not saying publicly a few days ago. So I'm not sure how this exactly advantages Iran, but then again, they had to respond. So it's like, it's one of those weird situations. It's like, you're going to clearly create the opportunity for the United States to stand more with Israel by doing that. But when somebody attacks you on your soil, you have to respond in some way, or else you're just saying, hey,
come on in.
Rolling out the red carpet, call them in and attack us whenever you want. We won't respond. We're patsies. So,
And it's never been up for debate that Israel has a right to defend itself. That's never been a question. It's never been up for debate. They, period, have the right to defend themselves. That's not a question. And this was measured. This was, I would say, a level-headed response. What's happening in Gaza? Not.
Exactly. And ironically, this move could actually end up freeing money for Ukraine in the United States, because last February in the United States, the Senate had passed a $95 billion foreign aid package that provided military support for Israel, Ukraine, and Taiwan, but it's been held up by the anti-everything, no caucus in the House. Now Mitch McConnell, who's the Senate, the minority Senate leader, and who has announced that he will not be seeking that position again.
I think
after the
he's
next
realizing it's time
election.
for him to go.
Yeah, is now saying Congress must discharge our fundamental duties without delay.
Interesting, though, right? A
yes.
bit of a change. Like,
but now you've got a whole bunch of Republicans that are in the camp for Israel, and it's like there is a Senate bill that's passed, so all you have to do is pass this to the House. Yes, that means that money will have to go to Ukraine.
Yep.
But if you want the money for Israel, you take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and there you have the facts of life.
What show was I watching recently where Mindy Cohn appeared in this program I was watching? Oh, it's Royal Palms on Apple Plus
with Carol Burnett, the new show Carol Burnett.
Yes, and Mindy Cohn.
I love
was
her.
It Cohn, C-O-H-N, I believe, not Cohen,
C-O-H-N.
but Cohn, who used to play Natalie on The Facts of Life, is on this program. And I mean,
love her.
She's my age, but she's aged really well. Like,
oh yeah,
you see her right away and like, oh my God, it's Tootie's best friend, Natalie.
Yeah.
Remember Tootie?
Yeah, no.
Come on, we all watch The Facts of Life. If you're of a certain age, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Very elegant.
And you know who wrote the theme song for that program? And who sang
The Facts of Life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was sung by Gloria Loring, and it was written, produced by the late. Oh, shit. I see his face. I can't think of his name right now. His son is a very famous singer. I can't think of his name right now either. Canadian. Alex. Shoot. Come on, folks, remind me. He was the father on Growing Pains.
Alan Thicke?
Thank you. Alan Thicke wrote that song.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, he wrote a ton of
jingles
and songs.
Alan Thicke. Thank you, Michael. Yes. Alan Thicke. I was blanking there. I was like, Alan? Because he took over. So most Canadians, if you are of a certain age, you will remember the Alan Hamill show. The Alan Hamill show. Alan Hamill was married to Suzanne Summers. Alan Hamill had a talk show on television, which was taken over by Alan Thicke, and it was called the Alan Thicke Show for a number of years. And then he had a nighttime talk show called Thick of the Night, which didn't last long, which was truly sad because it was a good show. It was a good show. It just didn't get an audience, and they didn't give it enough time to get its legs.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he went on to fame and fortune with the father in Growing Pains. But yeah, Alan Thicke was a prolific songwriter and producer.
Yeah, he wrote the themes to Different Strokes, The Facts of Life, The Wizard of Odds, The Joker's Wild, which was a game show, Celebrity Sweepstakes, The Diamond Head Game, Animal Crack-Ups, Blank Check, Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah.
And Wheel of Fortune. So, yeah.
Just, he was making, look, Alan Thicke could have stopped working decades ago and just sat there and said, yeah, no problem. I'll just hang out here.
Yeah. And there you go, man, Mr. Grizzly. I have a picture up here of Mindy Cohn, what she kind of looks like now. And very elegant.
There we go. Yeah. I mean,
she looks like she's living her best life.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, oh, there's Natalie. Yeah.
I was a big Natalie fan, I have to say.
I was a Joe fan.
Anytime, well, Joe's great. But anytime she's had a series or something, since The Facts of Life, I've always tuned in. She's actually a very good actress and actually relatively underrated. I'm surprised that she hasn't had many more opportunities, actually.
Do we say actress?
That might be
actress today?
Actor,
I just say actor.
Sure. Yeah,
I just say actor so I don't offend too many people. I try not to offend anybody. I mean, really.
But no, she's amazing. Oh, God, I was interested in watching that series, and now that has made me even more so.
Oh, it's good.
Although I really don't watch much TV at all anymore, which is kind
I don't watch television. I watch streaming services.
Not even streaming though. I really just like unless it's like
Sports.
live tennis, live curling, or something like that. I'm almost not watching TV.
So here's how
these days.
the only time I see advertisements these days, well, Prime, they have ads at the beginning now. They started selling ad space. But if I'm watching, like after the Grey Cup, I will pay attention to the NFL because during the regular NFL season, I don't give a damn. I'm a CFL guy. Okay. But after the Grey Cup, I'll start watching the NFL. And that's when I realize on Sunday evenings when the games are on, the late night game, it's every second ad is either a drug ad or a fast food ad. It's one or the other, literally.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is this what regular television looks like these days? The only time I see ads is Sunday nights when I watch NFL football because I don't watch broadcast television. I just don't. I don't. I'll go to different news services to watch their streams online. Either on my phone or on my TV or on my computer or my laptop. But I don't watch broadcast anymore. I really don't. Because look, they slit their own throats, which is a terrible statement, I guess. But they really did when it came to local news and production for local news. They've cut the budget so much so that people just stop tuning in. And I'm one of them. Maybe if you put some money into the budget, I would watch local broadcasts. But since you've cut it to the bone, I just don't care anymore.
Yeah.
I don't.
One last little thing to close off on the Iran thing that you may have noticed is if you're on social media, is this thing going on. There's a picture you see of the Prime Minister, Chrystia Freeland, and Sean Fraser at an event, and they are holding cameras up. Now, of course, because the loudmouths and the negative people have to fill every moment with twerking and twisting and lying and hate and character assassination. You get some people going, well, at least our federal government remains focused on Canada's real challenges and not absorbed with narcissistic selfies. If you will put the picture up, Mr. Grizzly.
Working on it. Just give me a sec here.
To see. Which, of course, you're right. The trope again of the Prime Minister being self-absorbed and loving to get his picture taken and the whole thing. And well, it seems that this actually wasn't selfies. It seems that all three of them were at an event at a time that there was a vote in Parliament. And them all holding the cameras up at the same time in the same way is not three individual members of a party all together deciding at the exact same moment that they have synchronized narcissism.
This is facial recognition.
Yes.
Before they can vote, this is how they have to sign in.
Yes.
This is what they're doing.
Yes. Yes, exactly. It's facial recognition. And then people are sort of around and says, oh, well, gee, facial recognition, blah, blah, blah. I guess, they should have been doing their work rather than hobnobbing or schmoozing or all that type of stuff. And it's like, they're clearly at work because there's people behind.
They're working.
Seems to be a banner and all that kind of stuff. So we literally have. Yes, exactly.
Stompy T.O. police horse. We are sick and tired of explaining how to use a smartphone to you, Dave. Have some pudding.
Yes. Indeed. So, again, let us remind you, all people, saying like this, oh, we're schmoozing, whatnot, that the leader of the opposition has literally used facial recognition for voting at least twice that we know of. One on the day of his all-night vote-a-thon that he decided to get out of by staging a fundraiser for himself and then realizing he needed cover. So he went to a Hanukkah lighting ceremony where he exploited the Jewish community to say, hey, I wasn't going to a fundraiser. I was going to Hanukkah lighting ceremony. And there just happened to be this fundraiser going on that was just instantly organized after I decided to call the vote-a-thon day, not before. Oh, no. There's no way I chose the vote-a-thon day to coincide with the fundraiser. That was already pre-planned. So I personally didn't have to stay in the house and do my own dirty work. And then I used the Jewish community and I used them as human shield So I go to their event to say, no, I had a legitimate reason not to be there. And while I'm there, at some point, I hold the camera up to my face and I vote against funding for a Holocaust museum in a Jewish community center in Vancouver. Or more recently, when he staged a no confidence vote on carbon stuff that he himself called for, and also was not in the House to vote because once again, he decided to go to a fundraiser.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about people, using remote voting so that you can schmooze and hobnob like this, look at the leader of the opposition, because that we know of on the record, he's done it twice to be able to go to a fundraiser and get a photo op on a Hanukkah lighting ceremony that he prevented every other member of parliament from going to by forcing them to stay in the house. And here you have a picture of 3 cabinet ministers, including the prime minister, together in one room together with other people there. Hold on for a second. And you think that this is a hobnobbing schmoozing event rather than them doing their work? They've literally found a way to be virtually in 2 places at once, which means they're more effective, and you're bitching that they're not working.
Yeah.
Stretch Armstrong couldn't span that gap.
I have a Captain Obvious moment for you here. Here's a Captain Obvious moment. This is from the CBC, posted at 4 a.m. today, so 5 hours ago. The dirty secret of the housing crisis? Homeowners like high prices.
Yes.
That's a Captain Obvious moment for you.
Yes.
We would have told you about the finger. I mean...
Yeah.
You mean I can earn a lot more money if I sell my house at a higher price? I'm sorry, that's such a Captain Obvious moment. I'm under surprised face. See, not this one.
Yeah.
I don't have the words. I don't have the words.
I know. It's so damn stupid.
It really is.
It really is.
It really, truly is.
Tomorrow, Kits and Cubs, is budget day in Canada. A couple of little tidbits coming up to it. Robert Saint-Asselin, who's a senior vice president of policy at the Business Council of Canada and a former advisor to Bill Morneau when he was finance minister, states that the government is going to have to make some fiscal room to cover the $38 billion in pre-budget announcements of the past weeks, which means, according to him, it must either delay spending on other projects or increase revenues by raising taxes. My guess is that increase revenues by raising taxes is going to be the option. Asselin says that the government is squeezed by the choices it has made, and he's thinking that the new tax would, quote, either a surtax on big corporations or a wealth tax. He says that those sound very good and they would be popular, but he says they are terrible in practice. Now, I'm not sure if that opinion is tainted by the fact that he was an advisor to Bill Morneau, who also has tons of money, and certainly probably would not be too keen on a wealth tax. But we'll put that aside. Chrystia Freeland, who's the Minister of Finance, pledged that the deficit will not get bigger no matter what, in the budget at least. And for that to happen, one has to make the assumption that inflation will remain relatively steady, and a government does not want to look like it is adding to inflation in case the numbers creep up a bit, because if there's like in the United States, if there's like a 4% bump in inflation 1 month as a blip, as things are correcting, moving around, that Pierre Poilievre is going to be all over that and saying, see, it was that money announced in the budget that caused that, even though not a cent of it has been spent yet. And it wouldn't be for a while, but he would blame it on that, just like, when the unemployment rate goes up 1%, inflation did go up 0.1% a couple of months ago. Then Pierre Poilievre had all his memes going, see, oh my God, they're spending us. And then when it went down the following month, he was nowhere to be seen. So you don't want to create an opportunity for PP to pounce like that. But I think that the government of Canada, and here's might be the strategy, actually, Kits and Cubs, so you heard it here first, might be counting on a few interest rate cuts coming mid-year when it's doing its budget. And that would create additional fiscal room by lowering debt service payments. Because when the interest rate goes up for us, it goes up for the federal government as well. Now, of course, they have a better rate than we do. But if the Bank of Canada starts changing its prime lending rate downwards, that is going to have an impact on the amount of money at the end of the year that will have gone to debt servicing. So there might be a potential windfall there. So when you have a combination of savings based on interest rate cuts, a capped deficit, and perhaps finding a way to come in under budget next year, when you add those three pools of money, all of a sudden, in the budget that is going to be tabled in the year going to an election, you can create an image of really good stewardship by saying, hey, we projected that the deficit last year or this year would be, but look at us. It's like $6 billion less because interest rates went down and we didn't fill up the spending with other things. But shh. So it'll be a little bit of a sleight of hand should that happen next year. It's not because that the federal government would have done something specifically spectacular when it comes to managing the finances to have come out under budget by $6 to $12 billion. It would probably be just a reduction in project amounts set aside to service the debt if there's interest rates lower. Because, and like I said, if you could couple that with coming in under budget, and you don't make higher deficits, all of a sudden, you got a pretty little number at the end of the year. And again, don't blame the feds for doing it. Again, the premiers showed them how. When it comes to this, oh, you gave me all this money for healthcare. Whoops, only 2 of the $4 billion got spent. Oh, look at this at the end of the year. We came in under budget. Oh, look at this. We have a pool of money of $13 billion all of a sudden to build a highway that we never planned.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're going to have the usual, they're spending us into the poorhouse response. That's going to happen. Now, of course, interesting things that will happen is that along with the budget tomorrow, the latest inflation numbers for Canada will also be coming out earlier in the day. So, if there's an uptick like there is in the United States, like this, the second those numbers come up, if there's an there's an uptick, count on conservatives claiming that $30 billion already announced definitely is the cause of this inflation.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Like this. And their narrative is going to be that the government is spending into the poorhouse. We are going, ass over tea kettle. We have the most incompetent manager. He doesn't believe in monetary policy, blah, blah, blah. Of course, monetary policy is the Bank of Canada's job, so the federal government shouldn't have anything to say about it whatsoever, or actually think about other than, like this, when's the next change in monetary policy from the bank coming and how do we respond? Other than that, there really is nothing to think of. Much like when the Prime Minister said that housing is primarily a provincial responsibility, and then they lost all their minds for him telling the truth, because other than housing on Indigenous reserves and housing for veterans in the military, maybe not even veterans, actually, I mean, like in terms of veteran hospitals, but not veteran housing when they've left, but housing for the military and Indigenous housing, the federal government's not responsible for housing whatsoever. They used to fund affordable housing projects, but that stopped. That started being cut back in the days of Mulroney, and then Chrétien Martin did nothing, and then Harper finished off those programs completely. So we have a 30-year deficit, at least in housing, that has come along.
Easily.
And then they turn around, they say the federal government did nothing, but they announced in 2015 that there were going to be 2 programs that got off the ground in 2017. They made adjustments to them based on what industry demanded at the time. And now that the premiers screwed up on temporary immigration with foreign students and foreign workers, suddenly we have an issue that the federal government is responding to. They're dealing with it on the supply side by having revamped the Housing Accelerator Fund, which is now slated to create at least 1 million housing units, 600,000 apartments, the rest in actual individual housing units over the next 10 years, with I think 175,000 of them expected to be built before we go into an election. So they're actually doing it. They're working on the supply and on the demand side by curbing the temporary immigration numbers. So they are doing what needs to be done, but as we mentioned, it is going to take a lot of time in order to get things back in balance. And it seems that they want to go even faster and further because despite everything that they have announced, and a lot of this is targeted to the youth demographic, which they seem to be losing. But yes, Sean Fraser had basically said, we can dramatically scale the pace of home building in this country. And it seems that there will be more measures in the budget than that what we already know announced on that. And Chrystia Freeland, with regard to fiscal responsibility, has said, we remain absolutely committed to being there for hardworking middle-class Canadians, and we will not raise taxes on them.
Right.
So which kind of hints that the fact that there will be, raising of taxes, probably just not on anybody that makes under $200,000 or possibly even under $400,000 a year in this case. So that's some budget stuff. The other part is that artists are also making specific demands of the budget. They're looking for help from the government to ensure a more equitable distribution of revenues from streaming services and more support for concert venues. $32 million had been announced recently. The president and the director general of l'Association Canadienne de la Musique sur Scène, her name is Erin Benjamin, made a $50 million requested that the $50 million promised in the last election to finance Le Fonds du Musique du Canada would be forthcoming, and that there would be $10 million to support live performance sector, independent music halls specifically. Musician Florence K in Quebec, who is very, very popular, is quoted as saying, c'est pas beaucoup ce qui est promis si on considère que les plateformes d'écoute en continu, de streaming, font des sommes phénoménales sur le dos de ceux qui créent le contenu. Basically means it's not what that which is promised is not really much when you consider that streaming platforms make phenomenal profits off the backs of those who create the content. So they're hoping for a little help from the federal government to try to balance that out and making sure that there's places to actually perform that are well-funded and can maintain operation. The final thing that I have for you today, before I ask if you've got something before we go, Mr. Grizzly, is that today, Kits and Cubs, is a very, 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 very special day. And I'm looking for my tickle trunk right now, and I can't seem to find it.
Sure.
Oh, darn. Oh, well. Well, imagine me with my Christmas bonnet on.
Okay.
Kits and Cubs. For some reason, I cannot seem to find it, and I usually have it nearby for occasions just like this, but today is the day, finally, that jury selection starts for one of four of, thankfully, former President of the United States, Donald Trump's criminal trials.
Criminal
Not
trial.
the civil, the criminal. Today is jury selection day. For the first time, a sitting or former U.S. president has ever been on trial for a crime.
Historic.
Yes. Now, in this case in particular, it is very, very important to note that it's the least grievous of the four crimes he's alleged to have committed. Sorry, we still have to say allegedly.
Yes.
And this is the case that seems to be, how would you put it? People are calling it the least spectacular because it's the Stormy Daniel case, and everybody keeps on referring it to the hush money case. But it is not a hush money case. It is a falsifying documents case. And as the judge stated recently, explicitly, it is also an election interference case. It is a 2016 election interference case because the allegation is that he falsified those documents and made those payments so that the news would not get out soon after the Access Hollywood scandal, where, the clip of him on the bus talking about grabbing women by the Kit Kat.
Yeah.
Was something that you just did, and they would just let you do it if you're famous. So, yeah, that's what's going on over there. So it's not just hush money, and Trump's statement is like, oh my God, it's like, I was just trying to save myself embarrassment from my family, and it's like, no, No. If you wanted to save yourself embarrassment from your family, you would have kept it in your pants. So, and I also will note the irony of alpha males, self-declared alpha males all over the internet cheering for a guy who had to pay for it. But anyway, just saying, the irony is there. Now, it comes after many last-minute attempts by Trump to try and delay the trial. He tried to sue the judge specifically. He tried to get a changed venue, saying that he couldn't get a fair trial in New York because there are just too many Democrats in the states, and you should probably move it to a place where there are more Republicans, so I'd have a better chance. Tried to have immunity. He tried every thing in the book, and his last three attempts to delay it were all dealt with within minutes, like same day, presented in the court. Okay, yeah, I've heard your arguments for the last hour. I'm going to decide now. No. So because this is a criminal trial and not a civil trial, he literally has to be there. He has to be there and sit there for the whole damn thing like this. And because in a criminal trial, you're not allowed to speak out of turn. You can only speak when spoken to. Ooh, the judge is going to have a fun time with this one, trying to get him to keep shut up because
he'll be held in contempt. He'll be held in contempt in the first 30 minutes. Watch and see.
Yes.
He won't shut his pie hole.
No, I can't believe they're saying this about me, and he's already out. He's already out there milking it.
Of course he is.
On Monday in New York City, I will be forced to sit fully gagged. I'm not allowed to talk. Can you believe it? They want to take away my constitutional right to talk. I have a crooked judge. No, it's court of trial. You talk when you're given permission to talk, and you don't talk.
That's how it
You're
works.
not. In a civil case, he claimed the same thing, that he was gagged because he wanted to make a closing statement. And there are rules to how you can make a closing statement in a court case. Like, for example, you have to stick to the evidence that has been brought, and you're not allowed to bring new arguments of evidence.
Nope.
And he wasn't respecting that. And the judge shut him down. And he said, oh my God, I've been persecuted. No, you were given the chance to speak. At closing arguments, which is normally not done, and you were said, here's the sandbox in which you can play, and you said, I don't want to play in the sandbox, I want to play outside the sandbox, and the judge said, okay, well, you made that choice, screw you, you don't get to talk anymore. So
play by the rules or get booted. It's not complicated.
Play by the rules or get booted. I mean, it's really not that complicated. He is also had a gag order put on him because he basically went out and made comments about the judge's daughter, said that she used to work for a Democrat organization, so therefore the judge is tainted, blah, blah, blah. And that's one of the reasons he had to be recused. And after he did that, he was told not to, and then he talked about her again. So the judge came up and put an expanded gag order. So now he basically can only talk about the judge and the DA. And nobody else. No court staff, none of their families, no nothing like this. And he's taking the fact that he's been gagged there, and he's conflating that and telling his people, I'm going to be gagged in court. I will not be able to say a word in my defense whatsoever. No, you will be able to. You just won't be able to speak whenever you damn well want.
Be great.
You'll have to exercise some impulse control.
I would love him to be gagged.
You'll have to take your Ritalin that day, Don, not sniff it. Seriously.
All right, I got a couple of quick bites for you here. This one is interesting. This is from Cheryl in Nova Scotia at @mini_bubbly. Company launches alcohol vending machines in Dartmouth.
Yeah.
Well, I'm giving our little Lola here wants some blackberries. She likes blackberries. Yeah, alcohol vending machines. Notice the brands that are represented on that machine. They're all part of the same company.
Blue, Bud, Michelob Ultra. Yep.
It's all like Labatt products. So that I find interesting.
Oh, that's like the soft drink dispensers, right? Coke products or Pepsi products.
So, but hey, look, it's a company that launched this, a private company in Dartmouth that came up with it. So if they secured a deal with them, whatever, what do I care, right? Yep. A lot of people are questioning. I go, well, that's, is there, you've got to be kidding me. No checking identification anymore. Cannot see any problem with this. It's like, actually, the article states that the machines would need your government ID, and it would also scan your face to see if it matched your ID. My issue is giving a third party your government info. these machines could theoretically be hacked. Well, they are on a network, probably a closed network, but still, how comfortable are you with that? Because I'm a little, Oh, and I have to show you a photo here of what's currently going on in downtown Ottawa. There's a protest taking place, and I guess these folks thought it would be appropriate to. Now, technically speaking, this is no longer a private company. It's owned by a large corporation, but still, the people who work there are private citizens just trying to earn a living. And these folks thought that blocking the entrance to a coffee shop in downtown Ottawa would be a good way to protest, which I think is ridiculous, but that's just me.
Yeah.
Anyway,
don't get between people and their coffee. That's usually not an advisable.
Not a good idea.
Yeah. To start with, I just say, it's like, I don't touch the stuff, and I know better to get between a person and their coffee.
It's dangerous, right? Like that's how you get smacked.
Very dangerous.
That's how you get hurt. Word. And I have one video clip, and then we really got to go because I have a meeting in like 5 minutes. But this video clip is 58 seconds. I think you'll find it interesting. Somebody, I think it was Tabby G who did this to me. I'm not sure. I can't remember. So whoever sent it to me, thank you. I apologize if I got your name wrong. But this is a very interesting video, and I think you'll be amused at it as I was.
Okay. Interesting fact, you may or may not know this, but when we were in the womb, before 6 weeks, all of us had female genitalia. Did you know that? All fetal genitalia is female genitalia up to 6 to 8 weeks. So dudes, I know you've all noticed that you have this weird seam on your scrotum that goes all the way from the back to the very front. You know why you have that? Because your pussy that you used to have fused itself together to make a nutsack for balls that you didn't even have yet. So think it through. If you believe that life begins at conception, then you also believe that every man is a trans man. So,
I thought that was pretty funny myself.
Yep. That's the comedy church for those people who are listening at home.
Yes.
And would like to hear more of that. But yeah, it is indeed true.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. I've known this for decades myself because, I'm smart enough to be able to read and understand what science
because
is.
Chromosomes?
Yeah, exactly. Technically, every man is a trans man.
Yay, science.
If you believe that an embryo or an egg is like if you're the state of Alabama, that's life. That means, how many chickens did I murder in the last week? I'm a serial murderer because I ate eggs, chickens, eggs. You heard it here first.
All right. Tiny bit of nope. You know what? We'll do that.
We gotta wrap.
That's it, kids and cubs. That's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember that sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. Let's see, because democracy is something that you do write those letters. I'm doing things in the wrong order, but that's how they came to me today. If you would like to make sure that you do not miss an episode, you do not have to, thanks to the Ray Girl, because she sponsored our pod page. If you scan the QR code, that will soon appear, or if you're listening,
it's already up there.
Podpage.com. Okay, I don't see it on my screen at all. Podpage.com. / the True North Eager Beaver, lowercase letters with a hyphen between each one of those words. There it is. That will take you to our pod page site. And if you subscribe there, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, it will come directly to you. Also, if you would like to support us, please make like Kit Elaine and go to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page. And there we have 3 buttons for you. Like, share, and subscribe. Lick them, click them, tick them. It makes us so very happy when you do, and I am very distracted by this bundle of cuteness because I just want to pet myself. I just want to pet her so much.
Look at that heart nose. She has a heart nose, eh? Do you see that? Her nose is a big heart.
Oh,
She's nothing but love, this little girl.
Such a cutie.
My 80-pound muscle-bound love hound.
Yes, the world needs more Lola. You are right, Kit Michael. The crotch cam. Thank goodness for Lola, says Kit Jim. Kit Mr. Jim. So yes, and please go to our YouTube page and click our buttons there. We are at 742 the last I checked, so 750 is 3/4 away to the 1,000, which is the goal that makes it such that our YouTube page will start being able to monetize certain things for us. So all the help you can do in getting us there, we very much appreciate. And if you would like to support us in another way, please go to the Emergency Beaver Lodge Hydration Fund at our coffee page. And if you scan the QR code by Mr. Grizzly's head, it will bring you right there. Coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, lowercase letters, all in one word. Please, 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 if you can make a donation there, we really, really would appreciate it. Thank you very much. It helps us keep this show going. And Kit Sassy says, look into channel memberships too. That's a possibility, but it would have to be a possibility again only after 1,000, if only to be able to give people the option to watch a show without without commercials.
That's right.
Because right now we have nothing additional to offer you for the money.
We will,
which is why we're still doing tips.
Yeah,
eventually we might have subscriptions and stuff like that. But yes, absolutely. We don't want to rip you off.
No,
basically, we don't want to make you pay for getting nothing different than you're already getting. Right. And you're supporting us generously with tips already. So, yeah. It's true that subscriptions make for a more stable revenue stream and that type of stuff, because there are months we do really well on tips, and then we go for periods of 3-4 weeks where we get nothing, and that's fine like this. And then we go for a period of 2-3 weeks where they come in like gangbusters. So, Kit Linda, you give us a free show 5 days a week. That's not nothing. It definitely is not nothing. But you have to build up an audience, and then once you build up an audience, and once you have the means to create some bonus content, or at least have enough viewership that some people will actually want to buy ads, and you can make ad-free shows and that type of stuff. So there's a value proposition in there. But I'm very grateful that Kits are offering to pay for the product without anything more than it is now. It warms my heart.
I gotta go, Chuck. I'm already late for a meeting. I gotta go.
Okay. So Kits, that's it. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. Roll the credits. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors: the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters; CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community; and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music.